gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for March 27th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, we're finally getting that Zelda Direct, our first look at the Avatar game, and more. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Rachel Kaser from GamesBeat. Rachel, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm still. I took a melatonin last night so I would get plenty of sleep,
Yep.
and it hit me like a freaking freight train. So I'm still recovering. I had really weird dreams.
Yeah, I was going to
It's
ask,
just
do you
been-
have the weird dreams?
I dreamed that I slaughtered a tuna.
Man, I had weird dreams last night too, and I woke up, I dreamt that a YouTuber I know told me he was really a cop. And then I woke up because it was terrifying.
Oh my god, that's horrible. But I love it. But and that I don't know which one of ours sounds more plausible. But I'm terrified of the ocean, so the idea of me actually going in wrestling down a tuna is probably more implausible than what you just said.
That's real fun. But yeah, I mean, okay, so the melatonin, I mean, it helped. It did its business. How'd the
did.
weekend go? Did you need to recover from like it was a party weekend or something?
No. It was a pretty decent weekend. It's just sometimes like of course I also had played a session of D&D, which was great, and we killed. I I had a double attack on a demon of the final demon of the battle. I rolled a nat 1 on the first attack and a nat 20 on the second. So that's
Ooh.
my triumph of the weekend.
That's good
But
business.
I also got my tax return.
I need to do my taxes. I'm going to commit to that this weekend because I think it's the last chance I'm going to have before I have some travel coming up. So it's like, all right, this upcoming weekend, it's all taxes all the time. I'm going to do that. I went out for my birthday, and I had a pretty good time. Went to Main Event, which is an arcade near me, and then a 16-bit bar down in Cleveland. It was a lot of fun. It was cool. I played Shinobi 3 on a Genesis Mini. And it was great. It's like I had the little TV there. They had the March Madness on the screen above it. It was a good time. I had a pleasant weekend. But now it is time to get into this mess. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay,
Hi,
we have a lot to
YouTube.
get into, so let's start the morning mess with Nintendo to show off new Zelda Tears of the Kingdom gameplay on March 28th. That's tomorrow. This comes from Michael McWhorter at Polygon. Nintendo will showcase 10 minutes of new gameplay footage from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on Tuesday, offering a deeper look at the game hosted by Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma. The gameplay presentation won't be a full-on official Nintendo Direct, apparently, but will give hungry Zelda fans something to chew on before the Tears of the Kingdom's launch day in May. According to a tweet from Nintendo, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's gameplay presentation will be shown on Nintendo's YouTube channel and will go live March 28th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We've been waiting for this, right? I mean, whether it was a direct or one of these, like longer YouTube videos that they treat us as some presentation, we kind of knew something like this was coming. There was rumors over the weekend that this was going to happen on Tuesday. Here it is, and now we're getting it. I'm ready for this to be the time when it's like, okay, they are really going to begin answering some major questions. They're not going to answer all of them, I think. I think they're happy that the game is something of a mystery. But 10 minutes of gameplay, that's a chance to really settle. Here is what makes this game different, right?
I would hope so. I mean, 10 minutes is a little bit stingy, maybe. I mean, considering how close the game is to release, I'd be expecting at least 15 to 20 minutes.
They did
gameplay
15 to 20 with maybe I'm misremembering, but in my mind it was Splatoon 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Those got pretty beefy Nintendo Directs specifically for them that were in that range. So you're right, they are still holding back a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean that could just be because they're planning to drop a little bit more closer to launch date. But maybe it's just because Breath of the Wild did so well. Maybe they think they don't really need to go on a huge charm offensive with the sequel.
So.
As long as they just say, okay, here's what's different about it, but otherwise it's Zelda. and fans will eat it up, and that's probably going to be exactly what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think part of the mystery is really benefiting this game, like I said, where it's uh we are expecting, I think a lot of people like, okay, we know what this game is. It's the sequel to Breath of the Wild, as they originally called it, and it's using that same map and environment. It's just going to be more of the same. And if they've taken all this time and they've just jam-packed that map with all kinds of crazy stuff to do, that's going to be so, like, it's going to have such a high chance of blowing people away yet again, that I think they're happy to just mostly sit on this stuff. I mean, that 10-minute gameplay, it could be, there's this and there's this and there's this and there's this, or it could just be like one long sort of exploration segment where they're going from like one thing naturally into the other, and it's like, okay, and now here is a boss fight, and here's some new stuff you can do in the boss fight, and now let's look to the horizon, and there's this you might notice that's new, and this and this and this, and they might not show us much of anything like that, but it's like, here's all the new stuff that's suggested by this 10-minute gameplay. Now go and play it like we know all you fools are going to, and I would be very happy with that.
I mean, considering we know basically, we know the whole story in Breath of the Wild now, so I think they also don't want to spoil story details as well, because I think the story is going to be a big thing, for people to discover in the new game, especially if they're bringing back Ganon.
Right, if they're bringing back Ganon, if there is like anything weird about your player character, because there's been all kinds of fan speculation on YouTube and on Reddit and things like that, where it's, hey, are you really playing as an older version of Ganon or something like that? Or are you playing a different character than Link? And it's, who knows if any of that's true, but I think they will only very, very lightly hint at that stuff. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if here is 10 minutes where we are going to run through the beginning parts of the game. Here's where you leave the beginning parts of the game, and we're going to do like a new fight with new stuff that shows off some of the new mechanics. Here's us building a vehicle, nuts and bolts style. Here's how that's going to fit into this overarching game. And now let's end with us driving right up to the mouth of a fully fledged dungeon, and let's enter it. And you can see that it's a real dungeon, not just one of those shrines, which I love the shrines, but it's like that would be like, oh my god, okay, now I have to see this game. There's actually dungeons in there. That would be very exciting. But I'm building this up. That's the risk they run when they've held so much back. Now we are 6-7 weeks out from this game coming out. I think a lot of people are in I know Mike Minotti, you work with him. He is
that dude. Yeah.
I'm sorry. He's in a situation where he's like, I'm not excited, or he's his excitement has been very much tampered because he's not sure what to expect. He's expecting more of the same, and I'm starting to build it up into being like, well, we could have anything. This game could have 10-12 dungeons in it, like full-fledged dungeons, as well as all this new stuff, and it's also going to be a full nuts and bolts game as well as a Zelda game. That's they need to tell us right now what this game is. Sounds like they might do that tomorrow.
I hope so, but I mean, they've got 10 minutes to do it. Nintendo knows what they're doing, so I'm expecting those 10 minutes to be absolutely packed.
Yeah, me too. Well, I mean, after that, then it's gonna just be like, okay, the blitz has really begun in earnest for this game to come out, so we'll be looking forward to that. Moving on. This is a weird story. I tried to keep up with this over the weekend while I was pretty busy. Dark and Darker has been removed from Steam due to ongoing Ironmace Nexon dispute. From Marie De Alessandri at GamesIndustry.biz. I was trying to really track this because I saw someone say somewhere that this game is the person that runs this studio is apparently some sort of drug lord. So I'm like, okay, I don't know. Don't quote me on that. So it's like I was trying to track that down. I don't know if any of that stuff is true, but here's the story as it's been written so far. Dark and Darker has been pulled off Steam, where it was currently in playtest, following the ongoing battle between developer Ironmace and publisher Nexon. As reported by Rock Paper Shotgun, Ironmace received a cease and desist and DMC takedown from Nexon. The developer posted a message on its Discord explaining that this is all based on, quote, distorted claims. In the DMCA, which was shared on Dark and Darker subreddit, Nexon said that Ironmace is making unauthorized use of Nexon's trade secrets and copyrighted material. The letter went on to say that at least one former Nexon employee acquired and transferred without authorization more than 11,000 key build files of the P3 project from Nexon's server to his personal server in 2020 and 2021. The employee was terminated in July 2021 for that reason. P3 is the codename for a project previously developed at Nexon. Ironmace was founded in October 2021 by former Nexon staff, including employees who had worked on P3. This is a quote: Nexon's P3 game has never been disclosed to a third party, and before the release of the testing version of Dark and Darker, no other game had the same concept, genre, and plot as the P3 game. Nexon continued, within a mere 10 months of forming Ironmace, its demo/test version of Dark and Darker became publicly available in August 2022. It is impossible for Ironmace to have developed Dark and Darker in such a short time frame without using Nexon's trade secrets and confidential information. So I tried to read up on the complaint and the back and forth a little bit, and the trade secrets thing seems to be that one of the Nexon employees that now works at Ironmace was in charge of like the technology team or whatever, and during the pandemic, he's like, listen, to make this actually work, I need permission from you, Nexon, to put all like thousands of files on my own personal server, because that will like lubricate the process of making sure that we can get everyone the stuff they need when they need it. He got the permission repeatedly. He got the permission to be able to do that and to keep doing that. At a certain point, they were like, okay, we're going to stop doing that. And he's like, okay, I guess we could stop doing that, but I need everyone to go back in the office. But there was like this weird period where people weren't back in the office to make that process easier for this guy. And also, like, they still needed those files. So he's like, okay, well, I mean, we'll get around to, to taking the server down eventually. This is how they frame it, the people at Ironmace. And it's okay, well, in that period, it's like, Nexon knew that the server was still going. And then one day they just suddenly were like, okay, now we're firing you. That's how it seems to have gone. Now it does seem to be a leap. I suppose it is a logical leap that a studio that was working on a game supposedly similar to this left or was fired, started a new studio, and made a game a lot like that could be copyrighted material, I suppose. But it's pretty, I mean, this is Korea, South Korea. I don't know the necessarily the copyright laws there, but I'll say like most of the time, these kinds of things would be very difficult to prove in court here. But still, this is kind of a messy situation, right?
Sounds like a nightmare. I mean, I see if it's the sort of person who's like kind of dragging their feet on, I mean, even leaving aside everything with Ironmace, if this is a person who like had a server with the private company files and was refusing to put them back on the company's server, like, to me, that sounds like grounds for firing right there.
Yes. It's so I mean, clearly, like, Nexon and him, they had a bad breakup. Like, that was clearly all part of this. And it's people in the chat are saying that around the same time the guy got fired, the source code for P3 leaked, and it's like, okay, things are like circumstantially, at least, things are seeming to be lining up in a way where like this is clearly going to be bad beef. And even if Ironmace is going to come back and would be able to counter the DMCA claims, things like that, and DMCA being an American law, that's something they could do, but it's like still, it seems like there's a lot more going on here. I'm trying to see here. Ironmace commented, well, we are currently working with our legal team to remedy this issue in the best manner possible. Due to the sensitive legal nature of this issue, we must be careful with our statements so as not to jeopardize our position. We ask for your understanding as we work to get the game back up as quickly as possible. This story, this is no longer a quote. In February, Ironmace refuted claims the game was stolen. Earlier this month, though, the developer was raided by Korean police, which seized company material related to the game. So Nexon throwing their weight around at the very least, and trying to make sure that this is something that gets taken seriously. Sounds like it is. Dark and Darker was very popular, Rachel. I don't know if did you play this at all? I wanted to, never got around to it.
No, but I did see it on Steam. I think Steam recommended it to me a few times, and I feel sorry for the other people working at Ironmace who I'm convinced that not everybody at that studio was guilty of, using company trade secrets or party to it or anything like that. They just wanted to make a good game, and then all of a sudden, knock knock, it's the Korean police.
Yeah, it's right, exactly. And to me, this mostly seems like a bad relationship from a previous employer being taken to the extreme. Because at the end of the day, you can only copyright ideas so far. You can't really copyright ideas at all. Like, you copyright specifics, but the ideas, the concept of a video game, that's pretty hard to copyright. You can maybe, in the United States at least, you can occasionally patent an idea.
True.
But it's even that in the video game industry is pretty rare. We see that, and like when developers do that, they usually get like a pretty bad reputation. Be like, oh, you're one of those weird ones that wants to like build your ideas on other people's ideas and then not share yours with others. So
Hmm.
we'll see how this turns out. But Dark and Darker, a very popular game. A lot of people were very much looking forward to it. Every time it was doing one of these tests, people would like it would have tens of thousands of players, if not hundreds of thousands of players. So there's going to be a lot of interest to see if this thing can come back. Right now, that seems pretty sketchy about whether or not that's actually going to be able to happen.
I think if it comes back, it's got enough goodwill that if it comes back soon enough, people will not have moved on in large. People will not have time to move on. But if this takes years to get sorted, that might be more difficult.
Agreed. All right, let's move ahead here. The first in-game screenshot of Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora has seemingly leaked. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Twitter user ScriptLeaksR6, who usually leaks upcoming content in Ubisoft's Rainbow Six series, has now tweeted an image from the publisher's upcoming Avatar game. VGC corroborated the authenticity of this photo, by the way, that you're seeing up on your screen right now. If you're watching the video version, the screen seemingly confirms that the game will primarily be a first-person shooter and shows the player firing at a giant mech. ScriptLeaksR6 also says that they'll be posting gameplay soon. If that footage goes live, hopefully we'll be able to see that here this week. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora was originally planned to release closer to James Cameron's Avatar: The Way of Water, which hit in December. However, Ubisoft announced in July 2022 that the game had been delayed, and now it's coming. It was supposed to be coming like later this year. It was right now, but I don't think it has an actual date. But later this year, so after April, which would be the beginning of their fiscal year, is how they're phrasing it right now. Rachel, my question to you is:
Yes.
we are coming into a world, I think, right now where big IPs that get a lot of attention and a lot of money spent on them can actually not just succeed but demolish. I mean, the Harry Potter game, I can't remember the name of it.
Hogwarts Legacy.
Thank you very much. Is just a massive seller. Now, Avatar maybe does not have the cultural cachet conversation around Avatar always questionable. But they both have a very successful theme parks or whatever, or at least modules inside of theme parks. So this game, should be able to do something similar. If not, it's maybe not going to be the best-selling game of the year. But I wonder if, like, by making it first person, do you think that's going to turn off a certain audience that might show up and want to be like, oh, I want to see my blue person? I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe, but I think you might also attract an equal number of people who like first person shooters. My first thought when I see this is, oh, they're aiming for the Call of Duty crowd.
Yeah, but it's like the Call of Duty crowd's going to play Call of Duty, right? Like, I don't know.
They are, but so I'm not saying it's a good plan. I'm just saying that's my first thought when I see this as well. And actually my second thought was, oh, that looks a little Titanfall.
It looks a lot. Yeah, you see exactly what you mean.
Titanfall.
I mean, the mechs from Avatar always had that Titanfall vibe to them for sure. But it's like when it's in a game, it's like, oh yeah, cool. I mean, hey, if this game, I don't know if this game has multiplayer. They probably have said one way or the other. If they haven't, like having the blue cat people versus the giant mech things in an online battle, that could be really fun. I would be very much into that. But even as just like a game I want to play through, this is massive, right? This is the team that did Destiny, but the Division, I believe that's right, who's working on this. So it's like, okay, that's a team that has a lot of chops when it comes to shooters. It seems like they've worked on this game for a very long time. The way Ubisoft talks about it, they believe that it is something that can be very big. I'm ready to check in on this. This actually looks pretty cool to me. I just think that by making it first person, there is that wider, more the casual audience that's going to come and be like, I want my fun toys to play with. But they usually like seeing their toys when they're smashing them together, and I think that first person might turn them away a little bit. But I don't know.
But that's possible. But I mean, at the same time, I also, think that, well, this is weird because, when I think, Pandora game, I don't necessarily think like, I'm not a huge Avatar fan or anything like that. But from what little I do, instantly recollect, it's like it's a lot of climbing. It's a lot of, shooting bows, not so much guns. Yeah. And I can see the people like the Na'vi picking up guns and firing if need be, but it doesn't seem like that should be a staple of their gameplay. So first person is one thing, but if they're making this like a first person shooter, I think they may have got the wrong end of the conflict here.
To me that sounds like that's a very good point, Rachel. To me that sounds like what they're doing is what is the easiest gameplay that we can turn into something fun, and so often that is just shooting. I think that's one of the big complaints about the Suicide Squad game is we're playing as superheroes. Essentially, what are superheroes? There's supervillains in the game, whatever. But like it's just another third-person shooting game. Like they all have guns, and that's their primary way with interacting with the world. And I think shooting guns in a game to interact with the world usually, yeah, of course, it's fun. There's a reason we keep going back to it over and over again. But you're right. When I see this screenshot, my gut tells me this is what you're doing almost like 95% of the time. And I think you're right that an actual Avatar game set on the Pandora world would be much better suited as an exploration game, something where you are like actually climbing around that world, seeing discovering new sides to it. And then occasionally, but most of the time you're firing your bow, and then occasionally you pick up a gun in combat, and then you fire that a little bit, and then you move on, and you drop, and you go back to your bow. Maybe that's still this game. That's just my gut tells me looking at the screenshot, which I guess I should describe for the audio listeners. Which it is just a blue hands holding a gun that looks very Call of Duty. Actually, looks very Titanfall, aiming at a mech that looks exactly like the mech the guy had in the first Avatar, which once again looks like it's a Titanfall mech. And then there's soldiers in the background and a big explosion at what looks like a facility for mining or something like that. Yeah, I think this is going to be a generic first-person shooter for the most part, but Massive does good shooting games, so I'll check it out at the very least.
Since you mentioned Ubisoft, quick suggestion: this might turn out okay if they go the direction of making it like a Far Cry game.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I agree. That's what I want too. That's why I'm not like sick of Far Cry games, like and in a general way. I'm sick of the way that Ubisoft does Far Cry games. It's like something like this could give them the opportunity to like pull back a little bit and be like, how could we maybe pair Massive's really great combat scenarios that they are able to produce with our traditional open worlds, but also maybe settle down a little bit, like because it's Avatar, maybe we can be a little bit more confident people are going to come in wanting to explore this beautiful world.
Right.
But I don't know if Ubisoft has the ability to like peel themselves away from just being Ubisoft about any sort of Far Cry style game.
Yes, that's fair.
Oh boy, we'll see. This game's probably going to end up in one of these summer showcases, right? We'll probably see that. I mean, Ubisoft might have their own. I think Ubisoft's supposed to be at E3 in some capacity, so if they have a showcase around that time, I'm sure it'll show up there. If not, it will probably be in like the PlayStation 5 showcase, or if Xbox has something, or Xbox does have some, maybe it'll be there. We'll see.
Probably, yeah.
Resident Evil 4 Remake Flickering Lights glitch will be fixed in upcoming patch, says Capcom. This comes from Audrey DiMartino at DualShockers. In a tweet published via the Resident Evil Twitter account over the weekend, Capcom has stated it will be addressing Resident Evil 4's Remake's Flickering Lights glitch in an upcoming patch. Occurring as a sudden flicker of blue light across the bottom of the screen, the glitch is reportedly unique to the PlayStation 5 version of the game. While the glitch does not seem to have any game-breaking effects, the splash of color it adds to an otherwise somber or horrific scenes can be a tad annoying. Capcom has suggested several methods for players to follow in order to temporarily remove the glitch. Mostly they're saying basically just like save, exit the game, and then restart. That seems to be the thing that works most frequently. But other than that, they're going to fix this. So this has been happening to you. Just hold out a little bit. Sounds like they're going to be able to address it. In the meantime, either, play something else for a little bit, or just do one of these fixes that they suggest. Something else they said, setting the camera's motion blur to on, turning off depth of field and then setting the camera's motion blur to on is another thing they suggest. So good luck with that. How are you? Have you been playing Resident Evil 4?
Oh yeah, I've done 2 playthroughs of it.
Right, you were reviewing it, right? We talked about this last week.
Yeah, I reviewed it, and the embargo's finally up. Everyone has their hands on the game now. I can finally talk about it more. But yeah, I've done 2 playthroughs of it. I've never actually gotten this glitch, though it could be because I left motion blur on. Yeah, for most of the game.
It doesn't sound like it's happening 100%, but it sounds like when it is happening, it's just happening on PS5. So
yeah, and I played on PS5, so yeah, I didn't get that glitch, but my fear would be that it would be difficult for the epileptics who might be playing.
That's what my concern as well. First, when you see like blue flashing colors on a black screen, a game that people might be likely to play with the lights off. That's a combination. That's a bad scenario. So, I mean, there's been no reports of that. Not like to suggest that's what's happening, but that would be my concern. And I'm sure they want to get this fixed as quickly as possible to avoid anything like that. You played on PS5. You enjoyed it. You did play it through twice. I'm actually playing on Steam Deck. It's running really great on there. Oh my God. It's like most of the time it's 60 frames per second. Man, that RE engine just crushes. It's so impressive. But you played a PS5. I want to ask you, how are you finding the haptics and the triggers and things like that? Was that a good way to play that with the DualSense controller?
I think so. I had a lot of fun I mean, the haptics don't get in the way as much as I was afraid they were going to. I was afraid it was going to be, they were going to try to have different haptics for different guns, but
right.
No, I enjoyed it, and I think I don't think that the haptics caused any problems for me, nor do I think I didn't have any graphical glitches. I do remember that the rain was almost as bad as I was afraid it was going to be.
Yeah,
Like,
didn't
that's
they
my
say
one
something about
graphical
updating
complaint.
that? They said they were going to update
I think they
that.
did, yeah. They did, yeah. Because, I mean, I did remember some people telling me before, it's like, oh, well, that rain looks really bad. I'm like, okay, well, it's only for a little bit during the village that you have to sit through it, but yeah, it looks awful.
I think I must have saw it in the demo,
hmm
and it was that's where it's like, man, this rain. What is up with rain in video games recently? That Grand Theft Auto remaster, remake, whatever it was, they did that, and it was like really ugly there. There's
Yeah,
some other
I don't.
game, but it's like, yeah, it was surprisingly distracting when I saw that. So hopefully they fix that.
Hopefully, but that was my only. By the way, speaking of Steam Deck, I didn't get to finish my what I was saying earlier. So
Okay,
I
please
did
go
my
ahead.
tax. I got my tax return. Guess what I bought with it?
Ooh, what'd you get?
I decided I got myself a Steam Deck. It's on the
Yes,
way.
that's
So,
fantastic. Which model did you get?
the 256 gigabyte one.
That's the one I have. It's the one Valve sent to me. To be clear,
Yeah.
It's great. You just go. There's a 1 gigabyte or 1 terabyte micro SD cards are on sale all the time now. You put one of those in there, and you're going to be good. Like I have a ton of games on mine, and I'm like, I barely ever have to like clear out the fridge.
I could have put that money in my savings or put it towards
No,
something
don't be
useful for my.
absurd.
No, but I decided I wanted to see how the other half was living.
Don't be absurd. Of course, you got to get a Steam Deck. Once it's there, let me know if you want any help setting up MU Deck or anything like that. I am a resource, and feel free to hit me up for all that because I'm excited about Steam Deck still. All right, let's.
Right, Resident Evil 4. Yeah.
No, we're moving on now. Let's hit this one. Counter-Strike Go smashes all-time player count following Counter-Strike 2 announcement. This comes from Jordan Midler at VGC. Counter-Strike Global Offensive has blown past its all-time concurrent player count following the announcement of Counter-Strike 2. According to independent Steam tracker SteamDB, the game attracted 1,507,212 players on March 25th at the same time, smashing its previous all-time player count by around 100,000 players. Interest in the game has exploded following the confirmation of Counter-Strike 2, the next entry in Valve's PC shooter franchise, which looks to launch this summer. One of the ways that you can play this game early is by opening up Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and the game will be like, hey, yo, you're one of the special ones. You get to play Counter-Strike 2. So this is a good way to get people back into Go while we're waiting for Counter-Strike 2 to launch officially. But a lot of people are already playing the test right now. It seems like this game is really being able to walk that line of we are going to call something that's beloved to by giving it a pretty substantial update. This is, people are describing this as a full-on sequel, and I'm still like struggling with that personally. Like it's, to me, like a sequel would be like, going from Modern Warfare 1 to Modern Warfare 2. Those are two completely different games. It does seem like a major update, but in the lines, I guess it's a sequel in the lines of Madden NFL, 1 year to the next, right? Like there's a ton of updates in there. And honestly, this seems more substantial than any one of those sports updates get year to year. So from that side of things, definitely feels like a true sequel. But people are very excited about this. I tried to get in there. I opened it up. They're like, you're not one of the special ones. So I haven't been able to play Counter-Strike 2 yet, but I'm going to once I get the chance. Yeah. Are you gonna check this out?
I'll try, but I know I'm not. I already did tell because they said that it's based on length of time playing the game and player trust, and I haven't played enough of CS:GO to be able to be part of the elite group. I don't think, unless I get really lucky and somebody at Valve likes me.
Yeah, I'm gonna this summer I'll definitely be on it, but I'll try to get into this beta a couple more times. We'll see if they run any more tests. We'll see. Elden Ring has severely disappointed players with its new ray tracing update. This comes from Mohammed Hassan at DualShockers. It's only been a few days since the Elden Ring 1.09 update rolled out, adding ray tracing support to elevate the already dazzling universe crafted by the masterful hands of Hidetaka Miyazaki and G.R.R. Martin. But fans are currently criticizing the game's unsteady performance, with reports indicating that the once seamlessly running game is now struggling to maintain a solid first-person a solid frames per second. Man, what a day. Users toaster. Yeah, it's one of those.
Do you want to take the first person shooter off the screen?
Yeah, you know what? I do want to do that. That's fantastic. Yeah. That's what it was. It was throwing me off.
Yeah, it's seeing a first person shooter, your brain makes that.
My brain just did the leap automatically. User Toasters for Life shared the results of their game's benchmark performance of on 70,470 frames, and the result ranged from 30.8 minimum frame rate to 54.5 maximum frame rate, with an average frame rate of 41.6 frames per second. These were the results of testing at 1440p with the highest ray tracing settings on a 3060 graphics card. However, according to other users, such as Drastic Bread, running the game on 3070 or higher doesn't necessarily fix the problem. The big issue here seems to be that Elden Ring doesn't have DLSS. So it's like that's the tool that NVIDIA usually pairs with ray tracing so that it can run the game at a lower internal resolution, so it can run way higher, and then they can add ray tracing on top of that, and then that takes the frame rate back down. But now it's going back down to like 60 frames per second, so it's acceptable. This game doesn't seem to have DLSS and doesn't seem to be getting it, which is just it's weird. So yeah, people are pretty upset with this, but it's like that's a PC solution. Even on consoles, people are like, this is not a great update to this game. It's also introducing some other issues. And it's just a reminder, From Software, incredible designers. They're not the best game developer, actually, when it comes to actually making games, right?
That's painful. But I mean, especially since, it's a Soulsborne game. So frames per second in some other games you might be able to get away with, having a lower FPS because it's not necessarily meaningful to the gameplay. Like sometimes you can work with it or whatever, but not in a Soulsborne game. You need as many frames per second as you can possibly get. Otherwise you're screwed. And I say this as somebody who's had that precise problem with a very different Soulsborne game, Wolong that just came out. I had that problem. Yeah, it was like for some reason on my PC, like I was just dropping frames everywhere.
That game was very unoptimized on PC. Yes,
I couldn't even get past the first boss. It was very embarrassing. But yeah. So by the way, why is everyone playing Elden Ring? Are we all bread people? Drastic Bread, Toaster for Life?
I don't know. You're right. This is
so many bread people.
It's a new fandom has popped up, and they're all the bread people who are super into Elden Ring.
Yes.
I don't know. There was another user named eSmith338 who had a thing about this, so I got to figure out how that's bread related. I'm sure it is. Smith's probably a good brand of bread, I'm sure.
They're gonna have to walk this back.
I think that so it's like when it comes to From Software, I'm always like, will they how will they fix it? Will they actually just keep trying to refine it? That's not usually their way. I mean, I remember Sekiro came out on PC and had a lot of issues at first. And it didn't get its first update on PC for literally months. And it's like, man, that's buck wild in this day and age. But that's From Software, so it's like there's a chance that this could be the state of the game for a little while before they get around to actually doing something about it. On PC, DLSS would just be the obvious solution. It's almost weird that they didn't have that. I mean, indie games have DLSS now, and Resident Evil 4 launches with it's got the AMD solution, which these days that AMD FSR 2.0 or 2.1 is pretty close to last generation DLSS. And if it had that, maybe that would help. I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem like it has even that. But DLSS would make the biggest difference, obviously. And if they could just add that, that would be nice.
Hopefully.
PS5 gets rare $50 price cut on God of War Ragnarok bundle for a limited time. This comes from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot. The PlayStation 5's God of War Ragnarok bundle is currently discounted to its lowest price ever, and anyone interested in grabbing the deal will need to act relatively quickly. A number of stores, including Walmart, GameStop, Best Buy, Amazon, and Sony's own PlayStation Direct store, are selling the Ragnarok PS5 bundle for $510 right now, instead of the normal $560 that it sells at. Rachel, I just would not have expected to get a discount on PlayStation 5 hardware at this point. When we were at this point last year, we've been like, no, that's impossible. Here we are. They're at least a $50 discount on one of the options, and really for the North America, this is really the only option that's been available for the most part. I guess maybe it's more likely you could find just a bare bones PlayStation 5 with no game included. But hey, if you can get this for $10 more, $10 more, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah, and you get a game with it as well.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
that's a good bundle right there. And yeah, I mean, maybe I think the disc based version of the console is just as good as the regular one. So excuse me.
Yeah, I think it's a
good deal.
This is something that they've really been putting out there is like, okay, we are making a blitz towards this holiday where we want to make sure there's a ton of PS5s out there, so that we begin releasing our next round of games. They have a real strong chance, especially when they're PS5 only, a real strong chance to just crush it. So this feels like part of this ongoing strategy of, okay, let's where we've fixed the yield issue by moving down to a smaller nanometer process for our system on a chip, and so now we are getting better yields, and that means we're able to make more PlayStation 5s. And as we're doing that, let's raise the price because people have been used to there not being a lot of PS5s out there, so we can get away with raising the price right now. So they did that. All right, so now we've maximized our revenues from what we can get from this stuff. Now let's think about the other side of it, of how we can maximize the revenue from selling games by making sure as many people have a PS5 as possible. We've already got the early adopters. We've already got basically the second and the third round of people who show up after early adopters. So now let's start hitting that next audience that has been sort of waiting around being like, hey, once it's easy to get a PS5, I'll go. And if they've sat on the fence for so long, they're like, maybe I don't even need one. I've been fine without one. Give them a price cut and see what happens. And here you go. I guess it's going to move a lot of PlayStation 5s. It's actually pretty wild that this is even happening. Sorry, I just got logged out of my thing. But yeah, I mean,
that's all right.
Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, wild speculation here. Do you think this is in any way related to what's going on with their little tiff with Microsoft right now? Because there's that whole thing where like the UK regulators just decided, okay, console competition is not going to be in danger from the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal. And so for some reason, my first thought is like they're going to use this as like evidence of something, of, how they're contributing to console competition. Maybe, I don't know. My brain hasn't made the full connection yet, but for some reason that was the first thing I thought of.
I mean, I totally get that, like that initiative too, of like wanting to be like, okay, Sony seems to be working backward from everything being about that Call of Duty deal. And so does that relate to this? This honestly just probably feels like the marketing department being like, hey, we have a ton of PS5s right now, and why don't we go ahead and just make sure we can get some stuff moving, actually, and let people know, like remind people, hey, no, it's easy to get one. It's so easy, you can even get a discount on one. And it probably just lights up the board, and people are like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go get a PS5. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder if the period of everything at Sony being about that Call of Duty deal is actually coming to an end, because after the CMA said that it's, the deal won't ruin competition for consoles, it feels like all the arguments Sony has made, Jim Ryan's made, have basically been thrown out the window, and really they'd be starting from scratch. They have to have a whole new argument, and it just feels like people are gonna be like, you sort of wasted your chance at this point, and we're done listening to you. So I wouldn't be surprised if inside of Sony they have already moved on. And they're like, we'll sign a deal with Microsoft. They're not gonna do it right away, but they'll sign it eventually, probably.
Yeah, like as have we all at this point. I think we're all starting to be like, okay, guys, come on, wrap this up. Let's go home.
I like when you're like getting all conspiracy theory though. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's just been on my brain so much lately with the whole they can't stop talking about it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, remember that period when they were just going back and forth in the press and just sort of snipping at each other? It was like, yeah, man, what a weird story.
As press, I gotta say, there came a point when we're like, could you please leave me out of your little like ex-husband, ex-wife fight over there?
Exactly. Yes, it was definitely odd. All right, a couple more stories here. We'll get through these. Xbox Game Pass $1 deal is coming to an end. This comes from Ollie Welsh at Polygon. Here's another deal story. For the last few years, it's been the best deal in gaming. 1 month of Game Pass for $1. Microsoft's trial offer for the first month of an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass subscription was a great introduction to the service, as well as being a great way to sample or, given a whole month, play the entirety of new releases for just $1. But it is no more. As reported by The Verge, Microsoft has decided to move on from the offering. Here's a quote. We have stopped our previous introductory offer for for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass and are evaluating different marketing promotions for new members in the future. And that's from Xbox Head of Global Communications, Carrie Perez. I know people who would do this deal over and over. I never really fully understood. I didn't look into it. That it was just so much easier for me to just pay whatever. But a lot of people are like, no, I mean, I get it for $1 and then I stop it. And then when another game comes out to Game Pass that I want to play, I just get it for $1 again. Like, oh, okay. I mean, if you could do that for sure. I bet that this at some point, Microsoft was looking and seeing that the people that were doing the $1 deal are a majority of people who have done it before, which means they are well aware of what Game Pass offers, and this deal is no longer providing the value to them as a marketing exercise that they want. And I'm sure they'll come up with some other solution here instead here pretty soon. But this isn't too surprising. This was always going to go away, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's more of that they realize that they can accrue more interest by just advertising the games, by just going really hard on like, look how much you get for the price, instead of being like, look how much you get for $1. Because like you said, probably the people who were taking advantage of $1 were like, there were a lot of repeat offenders, for lack of a better term.
Well, I mean, it sounds like Feast of Violet in chat says they just give you the offer over and over if you cancel. So it's, I mean, that's a pretty common tactic, right? Of like a subscription service being like, oh, you canceled. If you come back, we'll give you that same deal you had before. But yeah, the $1 deal was always honestly went on for way longer than I expected. This also seems like them timing things with, hey, we are about to actually start releasing video games. Like something we haven't done recently. We're going to have Redfall, and then we're going to have Starfield. We're going to have Forza Motorsport. So maybe instead of offering the $1 deal when we actually are releasing games, we could be like, okay, you guys have had, you were eating easy for quite some time. Now it's time to actually pay up if you want to get those games through the subscription service. I bet, when those games actually come, if they are a big deal, a lot of people will be like, yeah, fair enough. Well, and they probably will have some other introductory offer as well around that same time, I would think.
Yeah, I think Starfield is definitely going to be the one where they're like, okay, no more free lunches, pay up.
Yep, exactly. I mean, and that gives them time. Like that game's coming out September. We are in March. That's plenty of time to establish some other new marketing idea that would help them sell Game Pass. Game Pass is, I'm sure it's not growing as fast as they want because they haven't had many games, but it does seem to still be growing fast enough. Well, not fast. It does seem to be growing fast, all things considered, especially on PC. But it seems to be selling under its own weight at this point, where when people get an Xbox, it's like pretty easy to just be like, well, I guess I'll get Game Pass with it, because that's why get an Xbox without getting Game Pass. And so I think as new Xboxes were selling, a certain percentage of that audience would just get Game Pass. I think the big question is, once these new games start coming out, will all the people who have decided they were waiting for these games actually show up now, or will they just kind of keep going with what they're used to, buying the games? I suppose from Microsoft's point of view, either way is fine, right? If you buy the game or get Game Pass, actually either way is fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're getting money either way, but I think the rationale being that when they have a big Bethesda title coming out, maybe not Redfall so much, but almost certainly Starfield, when they have like a big Bethesda RPG, open world RPG coming out, open galaxy RPG, they believe that people are going to either come back to Game Pass, or they're going to be buying it in droves. So I think this is preparation so that they don't miss out on they don't have a whole bunch of people doing, like you said, signing up for the 1 month deal just to play Starfield and then canceling.
Yeah, and jumping off what you did with the last story, do you think that this has anything to do with that Activision deal maybe closing for Microsoft? Like once the deal closes, like will they immediately be like, okay, and you're going to get Diablo 4 in this, and you're going to get World of Warcraft subscription if you have Game Pass Ultimate? And maybe that at that point, it's like, oh man, the $1 deal actually, it would undermine a lot of that if a bunch of people went from subscribing to Warcraft for $15 per month to just say, oh, I can get Warcraft every month for $1 if I just cancel all the time. I'll just do that. That would be really bad. So maybe this is in preparation of that. Do you think there's a chance?
Definitely. I think that at the very least is a secondary concern, because once they have all of the Activision Blizzard King stuff on Game Pass, which is it's almost certainly going to be on Game Pass because that's the next hurdle is they have to prove that it's not going to stifle competition and for cloud gaming.
Yes.
So once that's all on the service, they've need to make sure people aren't doing the whole. I remember when Netflix canceled its trial, and I wrote a story about it, and I said basically Netflix says pay up or F off, and I got some very interesting messages from Netflix about that. But I think it's kind of the same thing now. Like Microsoft's like, hey, we really want you on the service, but pay up or F off.
Yeah, it seems like it's probably time. Maybe this is also them recognizing that what they said previously this year. Phil Spencer said, Game Pass is about 15% of our business, and we expect it to be 15% of our business going forward. We don't expect it to grow much past that. It's one of the many things that we offer. I still don't. At the time, I'm like, he's probably just saying that while they're in this sort of nebulous area between having a lot of games and not having anything, which is where they're at right now. And they're in this area where they don't know if the Activision deal is going to go through. So it's like, man, they're not going to have Call of Duty and all these other things to add on to it. But it's like, once all that stuff's in place, it should just grow. But maybe they're like, actually, no, we think it really is going to be a certain kind of game player wants a certain kind of thing that is a subscription, and everyone else wants something different. And so we're going to keep offering all these things. So instead of trying to grow by offering the $1 deal to get new people in here, we need to be finding ways to the people who want the service, creating more value for them, but also having them pay up or F off, as you so eloquently put it.
Yeah, I think this is a smart move for them.
I think so. I mean, it's past time. The $1 deal, like, at a certain point, it makes it feel like the service is cheap. And I don't mean like a good deal. I mean, like, the service isn't worth that much to Microsoft, so why should it be worth that much to me?
Right.
All right. Last couple of stories here. Let's hit these relatively quickly. Chris Avellone awarded 7-figure payment after sexual harassment claims settled. This comes from Andy Robinson at VGC. Prominent video game writer Chris Avellone has settled a lawsuit against 2 women who had publicly accused him of sexual misconduct and claimed he's been awarded a 7-figure payment. Avellone, who has previously worked on games such as Respawn's Jedi Fallen Order, was accused in a series of June 2020 Twitter posts by the women as being an abusive, abrasive, and conniving sexual predator. After the allegations arose, multiple developers cut ties with the writer, notably Dying Light 2 studio Techland. A year later, Avellone announced he had taken legal action and accused the 2 women of libel. Now, nearly 2 years later, the case has been settled. On Saturday, Avellone announced on his personal blog that the claims had been dismissed with prejudice and that he was to receive a 7-figure payment, which includes his attorney fees. The case was dismissed with prejudice. He brought the case, so it was his case that he was suing them. There was no court case from the women towards him to be dismissed. The 2 women behind the original allegations, Carissa Barrows and Kelly Ray Bristol, have also released a joint statement claiming that their public statements had been misinterpreted, and then he tweeted this statement from them. Rachel, I don't know much to say about this. These kind of settlements always feel like a black box. And in a world where famous men get accused and then are able to get massive payments from the people accusing them, it just feels like another one of those stories. So I don't know. I'm ready to just kind of read the story and move on. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's just move on. Let's talk about fun video game stuff.
Yeah, or let's talk about the Wii U and 3DS eShops closing today. This is it. The shops are closing for good tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, March 28th at 1 a.m. for Greenwich Mean Time. So this is it. This is your last chance to get in there and actually buy something. Have you been making any sort of plans to get games from these eShops before they close? Because I'm moved past it.
Yeah, I think I've bought everything I want to buy. Although I will tell everyone, remember, there's at least 3 Ace Attorney games. I mean, they're available on iOS and Google Play, I believe, so you could still get them even after the eShop closes. But I mean, just if you want to play them as they were originally intended to be played, that I do suggest getting them on 3DS while you can.
Yeah, Marino says it's apparently getting hammered today. Hard to stay connected to the 3DS eShop. That is and that store's already so slow and painful to use, and the downloads are so slow.
Yes,
because it's on Wi-Fi and it's ancient Wi-Fi at this point. That's rough. Hey,
I'll check my Wii U as well, because just in case.
Yeah. There's the Wii U was like the one place you can get like all like the Metroid games for a while. Now there's a lot of Metroid games on the Switch, but it's like there's probably other things similar to that. happening over on the Wii U still.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, today's that's going to be it, and the store's going to be closed, and there will never be a way to get these games on those Wii U and the 3DS ever again. Wink,
So sad.
wink.
I know, yeah, but I am legit sad
Of
because
course.
it feels like this is like just the end of an era, and I understand why they're closing the stores. It's so like, as I'm fond of saying, I know why, but why?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's sad. I mean, one of my favorite things to do was get a game on the 3DS and not open it on Christmas Eve, and like so on Christmas Day you could have it like show it. I could show it to Stephanie or I could show it to the kids for a little bit, like a little bit there because they were there at the tail end of the 3DS, and it has a little gift wrapping on it. So it's like a little present, and it's like, oh, we can open this present on the 3DS, and other systems don't do that, and it was like, oh man, that was a really cool way of doing things. So
Yeah.
I bought a lot of good. Honestly, the 3DS is what made me basically go all digital. I was like, you know what? I really like just having all my games on this little clamshell device. I just open it up and there they all are. And it's really nice to see them all just laid out in front of me. And so it's like, yeah, a lot of fun memories of that eShop and all that. But Nintendo moving on, we will have to move on as well. All right. I
Better
have,
be getting a ton of remasters, Nintendo.
yeah, I mean, the games that are stuck on those platforms, get them off there. Link Between Worlds needs a single screen remaster immediately, please. Please.
Please, yes.
All right. I have a question from Friday. What are you playing this weekend? Resident Evil 4 got 44.2% of the vote. With 40.6% of the vote, Diablo 4 beta. A lot of people trying to show up for that. And a lot of people were just like, weren't even going to try because they're like, oh, the server's going to be nightmare, which the developer said. And yet 40.6% of the response, Diablo 4 beta. And then 15.2% said both.
That's pretty close.
Yep.
And Dredge.
Yeah, Dredge apparently still not out yet. I just put that in there because it was Friday and I don't know what was going on. But Dredge is a game I'm looking forward to. I cannot wait to play that. Hopefully I get a code here soon. All right. Rachel, I have another poll question I'm going to put up. In the meantime, why don't you tell people where they can find you, what's going on with you this week, things like that.
Okay. You can find me on Twitter at Rachel Kaser. It's my name, RACHELKASER. Hope you wrote that down. So we just put up the most recent. I've been sick sick in taxes. So potential death and taxes have put off Stay Golden Sunday for the last couple of weeks. But it finally came back yesterday. Even though the auto tweet didn't work, but I still managed to get the story out. So we did the one where Dorothy absolutely smacks down an anti-Semite. So which is just wonderful. Love it. So, and we got Masonry Monday coming out today, and then the rest of the week it's going to be other gaming stories. I'm probably going to write something else about Resident Evil 4 and the NPD results coming out on Wednesday. So that's going to be another big story.
Yeah.
So that's all going on this week, and you can find it all on my Twitter if you're interested, and also you can find my Tumblr as well if you just want to read my Golden Girls and Perry Mason stuff, which, of course, I know this audience absolutely devours that stuff.
We are all big Golden Girls fans here, absolutely. I'll get into Perry Mason as well. It's about time that happened for me. Yeah, but Rachel, thanks for hanging out today. Let's see the new poll question. Are you excited about the Avatar game from Ubisoft? Your options are yes and no. We'll talk about that on Wednesday's Game Mess Morning on Giant Bomb. Speaking of Giant Bomb, this week, tomorrow, we will have the Giant Bomb cast. So be sure to tune in for that. We're going to be recording a whole bunch of stuff, figuring out what's going on this week, quick looks and all those good things. But we should also have not Blight Club. We'll probably have something in its place. Me and Mike have some plans because Dan is traveling for wrestling reasons. I mean, we could just say it. And then on Wednesday, though, we should have Grubber Lang, I think. I don't think so I think Dan should still be here for that. We should be making that happen, so look out for that. But otherwise, we'll have the calendar up. We'll put a schedule up so you guys can see what's happening on Giant Bomb this week for all of you. Rachel, that was a good show. Thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I was having so much fun.
Yeah, me too. It's a good time. And then everybody, thank you for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Do your taxes. Bye.
I gotta do my taxes.
You could get a Steam Deck.